Hi everyone, so today's video is going to be about the Olympic flame and more particularly the Olympic torch race, which was created for the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games and is still a common feature of the opening ceremonies today. However, the Olympic torch race actually has a lot of ties to the Nazi Party, while Adolf Hitler was the Chancellor of Germany before the 1936 Berlin Games began. So this video is going to be a mixture of sport and history, which is exactly what sporty history is, so we're going to get started. So I'm just going to talk initially about the whole idea of what the Olympic flame was at first. So the Olympic flame was introduced to the 1928 Amsterdam Olympic Games, where they had a large pillar with a cauldron at the top where they lit a flame in honor of the ancient Greek Olympics. Now this flame in the ancient Greek Olympics meant to signify a kind of symbolic fire in gesture to Hera, the ancient Greek goddess, who is known as one of the more prominent Greek goddesses. So in honor to order the ancient Olympic Games and also try to connect it to the modern games that were happening, they had a fire lit at the main athletic stadium, and it stayed lit for the entirety of the Olympic Games. Now organizers liked the concept of this ancient fire, so much so that they wanted to include it in every single future games that was ever going to happen. Now, however, the story of the relay, which is the bringing of the ancient sacred flame from the ancient Greek Olympic site in Athens, Greece, to wherever the Games is going to be starting that year, actually dates back to the 1936 Berlin Games. I'm going to get started with a little bit of the organization of the 1936 Olympic Games and a main figure in that organization, which was Dr. Karl Diem. Now, Diem was a German sports administrator who was really instrumental in getting the Games awarded to Berlin in 1931. Him, along with other sporting organizations in Germany, really lobbied the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee, to get the Games in Germany, to kind of show that after the First World War, Germany had recovered, they were a new country, they wanted to kind of show off this new revamped Germany. The IOC liked this idea so much that they awarded it to Berlin for 1936 Olympic Games, and Dr. Karl Diem was made secretary of the Berlin Organizing Olympic Committee. However, while planning for the Games, Hitler rose to power in Germany in 1933. Diem was concerned for the future of the Olympic Games in Germany at that time, when some of the Nazi Party's policies and beliefs on international sport were essentially against all international sport, as Hitler believed the Olympics were invented by, quote, Jews and Freemasons. And knowing what he does in the future of Germany, especially with Jewish people, you can see that maybe he wasn't super interested in having the Games in Berlin initially. However, the Nazi Party saw the possible benefits of hosting the Games in the new Nazi Germany. So when they saw all these possible positives of hosting it and good things that could actually come out of it while hosting it in the Third Reich, Dr. Diem was actually given a dream budget in order to organize and create the Games. Now, there was a few reasons why Hitler and the Nazi Party wanted to actually host the Games. They wanted to show off their new state, or the new Third Reich, and how this new Germany was basically going to improve. Also wanted to celebrate the new German, which was a young, athletic, and Aryan population. They also wanted to show off how the Aryan race was basically racially superior to everyone else, in particular POCs, Jewish people, anyone from basically outside that kind of area in Europe. They wanted to say, guess what, we're better, watch us do sports and we'll beat you in all of them. And how better else to showcase their racial superiority other than war, but through sports, which unfortunately is a bit of an ironic statement that I'm currently saying right now, because war does come. So the Games were going to continue for the benefit of the new government, and therefore were heavily influenced by it. Now, Dr. Diem, who I will mention, was not a member of the Nazi Party, nor did he really support the Nazi Party. He's actually considered a white Jew because his wife came from a Jewish family, and because he married into that family, he was then considered a white Jew. I don't necessarily know how their thing worked with that, but he had ties to Jewish families, therefore he became Jewish. Even though he was considered a white Jew, somehow he was able to keep his position in organizing the Games throughout it and afterwards, which is probably because the Nazi Party realized that they could probably get more out of him working for the sporting organization committee than if they got rid of him. They knew he was the man to do the job. Dr. Diem's love of antiquity and the ancient Greek games is actually what inspired the idea of having a torch race. The idea came from seeing depictions of torch races in ancient Greek pottery and in their drawings. However, every idea that he came up with, or anything that he came up with, had to be passed and approved by the Nazi government, and particularly the propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. Now, Goebbels and Hitler liked the idea of a torch relay a lot, as it linked ancient Greek athletes to the Aryan race in Germany, as there was this belief held by the Nazi Party, particularly Hitler, that they were direct descendants of the ancient Greeks, and this was the perfect way to show that they too were the best of their time. Don't necessarily know how they were able to link ancient Greeks to Germans in Germany, but they did it, they created it, and they liked the idea of a torch relay because they could then prove it somehow. So it was given the green light by the Nazi Party, not necessarily for what Dr. Diem believed, but more for what the Nazi Party believed. So Goebbels directed a lot of media attention towards this relay and its journey through Europe as a Nazi German propaganda kind of film or media. Now, the route that the torch took from Greece to Berlin was to specifically showcase the Nazi Party's growing power and prowess within Europe, also to enhance their influence on certain countries along the way. So through their journey, they visited places like Austria, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Hungary. Now, as for what happened in each country. So it was blessed by Greek Orthodox priests in Bulgaria. Greece would later be invaded by Italy and Germany. It was serenaded by gypsy musicians in Hungary. Gypsies were later put into concentration camps across Europe. In Vienna, after the Austrian Nazi Party, basically who had also just assassinated the country's chancellor in 1934 during a failed coup, cheered on the torch as it came through the city and condemned the new Austrian president. Austria was later annexed and absorbed into the Third Reich. At the Czechoslovakian border, German-identifying citizens welcomed the flag with celebrations and welcomed the Nazi Party coming basically into their country. Czechoslovakia was later invaded in 1938. Now, while traveling in Yugoslavia, there were protests by some of its citizens, but were quickly basically subdued by the Nazi-supporting government of the country at the time. Yugoslavia was also later invaded by the Nazi Party. Ironically, Goebbels, who had used the Olympic flame purely for political purposes and linking the ancient Greek society to their Aryan German Third Reich society, is a quote, "The use of the Olympic flame for political purposes is exponentially regrettable," which is just full of hypocrisy. Let's start that off. So when it came into Berlin, it was run into the stadium by German. He then lit the cauldron with the ancient flame while everyone was there for the opening ceremonies of the games and tied ancient Greece to Nazi Germany. Now, the International Olympic Committee loved the idea of the Olympic torch relay so much that they officially added it to every Olympic Games in its charter, so that it was mandatory basically to be held every year. Now, Hitler had this to say about the relay and the Olympic Games. "The sport of knightly battle awakens the best human characteristics. It doesn't separate but unites the combatants in understanding and respect. It also helps connect the countries in the spirit of peace. That's why the Olympic flame should never die." Within the next 3 years of the Games, all of those countries that the torch traveled through were annexed or invaded by the Nazi Party, accumulating in the Second World War. Now, I want to just quickly talk about the Crump Company. Although it's not necessarily sport history, it is related to the torch relay pretty significantly. So I just want to mention this company's involvement and how it kind of helped develop the torch relay and create kind of aspects of it that we still see today. So everything in relation to the Olympic flame, including the torches, the transportation, the cameras, the fire bowl, and production, were all German made and manufactured. The torch was meant to be emblematic of German engineering and excellence. The main goal was to not let the flame go out from its journey from Athens to Berlin. The Krupp company invented a brand new way to burn a flame that would withstand all types of weather like wind and rain. It used, I think, specifically a kind of mineral so that the flame would continuously burn. Torch is actually based on what they still use today for the Olympic torch, and was used for almost the exact same torch at the 1936 Berlin Games, was used for quite a while afterwards in different games until they developed newer ones. And this torch was actually considered a huge feat of engineering worldwide as well. However, the Krupp company would later provide artillery that helped the Nazis invade much of Europe, including bullets, bombs, tanks, ships, and U-boats. Within their factories during the war, they used slave labor from various groups, but mostly French prisoners of war, to create their arms, and worked with the government to actively pursue war. Now, because of this, the company was later put on trial for war crimes by the US authorities at the Nuremberg trials. However, they made the iconic Olympic torch, while at the same time making panzer tanks that would storm across Europe and Africa. Which is just a little bit of interesting information to add into it, which just kind of layers on this kind of not so great history about this particular Olympic torch race and its origins within it. Now, I'm also planning on covering what actually happened at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, or otherwise known as the Nazi Olympics, which I'll probably have to split up because there was a lot of stuff going on during that time. But I wanted to highlight this torch relay individually because it's not really a sport, but it's still a part of Olympic history. Today, little is mentioned about the links and the history of the Nazi Party's involvement with the torch relay. Lots of people know about the bad things that happened at the 1936 Olympics, and people really do condemn those now. But little is mentioned about the relay, which is a big part of the games and the opening ceremony. It's basically the thing that starts off the Olympics. As soon as that flame is lit at the opening ceremonies, the games begin officially. If you go to the official International Olympic Committee's website and look for the history on the torch relay, nothing is mentioned about Nazi Germany's involvement with the creation of the torch relay, how it was heavily favored by Joseph Goebbels and how it was heavily favored by Adolf Hitler. Also the support it got from the government, and its goal to basically expand its influence in certain European countries that they would later invade. Nor is the idea that they used this Olympic torch relay to link ancient Greeks to the Aryan superiorly racial Germans. Now, this is all just something to consider next time you watch an Olympic torch race at the opening ceremony. Yes, it is the carrying of the sacred flame from the site of the ancient Olympics to its destination every 2 years, or 3 as it'll be this year. But the idea and the creation of one of the kind of biggest events of the Olympic Games tied to one of the worst times in modern human history, and was influenced by probably some of the worst people in modern human history. So what do you think about the Nazi torch relay that is held every Olympics? Should its history be discussed, acknowledged, or broadcast, or just kept basically swept under the rug? So that is the history of the Olympic torch relay. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, you can always like it. If you like some sporty history videos, you can always subscribe as well. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.